The Retro Buzz starts right after this.
Hey guys, it's Friday, so you know what time it is. It's time for the Retro Buzz, and we've got a great show lined up for you today. But first, I want to introduce the panelists that we have today. We've got Mr. Glenn Planamento from youtube.com/ no, not TurboGrafx-16, Glenn's Retro Show.
Wow. Nice. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Uh-oh, the war's going to start already. We've got with us Mr. Doug Smith from COOLTOY.
Pleasure to be here.
And before we introduce our special guest, I got to say, last week people were asking, Glenn, you said, how did it work? The TurboGrafx-16, because I can't even hold a candle to our guest. He's got like 200 consoles. But getting the TurboGrafx-16, I've been streaming a lot of games this week, getting it on Twitch. I'm kind of excited. I got both bonks. Really awesome, but I played the Saturn just as much as I played the TurboGrafx-16. Does that make you cry?
No, the Saturn was another console that was very underappreciated, like the TurboGrafx-16 was, just like even the Virtual Boy was. My point is that these consoles get such a bad rap out there, and people don't even play them. If you play them, as you can see for yourself, you're like, wow, these are really good. That's the point I'm trying to get across. It took a couple of weeks for it to happen. But that's what I really wanted you to see, that these consoles that people give such a bad rap to are not only not bad, they're excellent, as you're seeing for yourself.
Doug, what's your response to this?
I love how he's sugarcoating it.
I defused him. He can't do anything. He can't say nothing.
He's gonna gloss completely over the fact that he claimed that the TurboGrafx was far superior to the Sega Genesis. He's just gonna omit that from the record completely.
Oh no, I still believe that from a technical standpoint, graphic engine, it is. Point blank. CPU wise, not necessarily, but
all right.
Graphically.
So let's get the opinion of our guest today. We've got joining us John Lester, as you guys know him, is Gamester81 from Gamester81.com. Welcome, sir.
Welcome.
Oh, you're muted there, bud. I think you might have accidentally muted. Well, because we didn't introduce him right away, so I think he just muted it right quick.
Oh.
Sounded like he was getting.
Hi, I want to say yes. Glenn's correct.
No, he's not saying that.
Superior.
I think he just. It just muted. All right, he's gonna work on that.
See? The Sega Corporation of America literally just cut off John from answering the truth. There's proof right there.
We had John a little bit. John, whenever you get your audio back, just jump in. In the meantime, Glenn, why don't you talk about your project while we get John back with his audio that you got. Oh, there we go. We got John.
Here we go. Johnny's back.
Well, my Yeti mic is not working for some reason, so I'm on my internal. But how's it going? Good to be here, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's great. It's great to have you. So you got to settle this discussion. So the last couple of weeks, so let's set the stage. Doug and I both pre-ordered, and Glenn finally got around to doing it last week. The TurboGrafx-16 Mini.
Okay.
Doug has been on the waiting list for a year. He pre-ordered a year ago. I just did it back at the end of January because of Doug. It's all his fault.
Yeah, and thanks for making me order it now. I could have got it from Japan tomorrow.
Well,
and I gotta wait.
Okay, all right. Before we get in that, so Glenn's trying to say that it's more superior than the Sega systems that are out there, and he wanted to know if I played the TurboGrafx more than the Sega Saturn. Which one is more superior in your opinion?
In my opinion, you can't compare the two because it's apples and oranges. They're way different. Now, if you were to compare the TurboGrafx-16 to like the Sega Genesis, that'd be one thing, or the Super Nintendo, or the NES, that's one thing. But the Saturn, they're both great systems. I love the Saturn. I love the TurboGrafx 16. It's hard to compare the two though, because they're totally different systems.
Doug,
So let's compare it to the
Wait
Genesis.
a second here. I never said that the TurboGrafx was better than the Sega
yes,
Saturn.
yes, you did.
Never said that. I said Genesis, my friend. Never
No,
said Saturn.
now he's
He- he
backpedaling.
System. You got you smoking
did
crack.
narrow it.
You're smoking crack
Glenn-
today, and you got to stop.
Glenn,
I
did
do
narrow
believe
down
I do
TurboGrafx versus
agree with Glenn though. I do believe that the TurboGrafx was totally underlooked and underappreciated. So it is a good system, and those who played it will enjoy it. And I'm excited for the Mini. I pre-ordered mine a while ago, like you guys, and I'm still waiting for like you guys are. But hopefully, it will bring a new spotlight to a great console.
Well, and I will say this, and you guys can add to this or not. Right now, P-Dubs announced it last week when he came on. He said about, like, you can order it from Japan, you can get it tomorrow. I know Patton Plays, he got his already. Nostalgia got his already. Glenn, you said. If you order it from Japan,
Mad Little Pixel got his.
you could pay $11 and you can have it in 3 days. Apparently, that's the cost. So
Interesting.
if you didn't pre-order it yet, and you weren't stupid like all of us that seem to pre-order things and not get them until way after the release, you can go do that and get it. But I did want to bring something up that I thought would be good discussion for the three of us. What I'm noticing more and more, that the two underrated systems, if you count the Dreamcast, the three underrated systems, they're the most rarest, hardest to find games and systems, and the prices are through the roof on these systems that nobody wanted back in the day. Glenn, why? Why?
Well, because again, you got to think of when the TurboGrafx 16 came out, right? They were touting it as a 16-bit console, and it's not. The CPU is an 8-bit and an enhanced NES processor, but it's got a 16-bit graphic engine. It had great support in Japan, but as we know, Nintendo had a stranglehold on people on this part of the world, so they couldn't release the same games that they could have and showed it was superior than the NES. So that hurt them in one respect. The other was just the 90s being the 90s. The marketing was you know, it was the 90s kind of marketing, and it didn't really help them. But the console itself, it's actually a really good console. Hardware-wise, graphically, sounds, and the games. A lot of the games from Japan, if you can get them. But there's still good ones in America. Like, here's a prime example right here. I was showing it before. Ease 4 never came to the States, but I've actually got a patch to make it English. Fantastic game. Never made it here because it basically stayed in Japan. There was a lot of games like that. So the same thing is going on with, like the Dreamcast. Well, it's kind of different what happened with that one. But these machines, people are realizing, you know what? There's articles in Electronic Gaming Magazine, or my friend who had a Sega Genesis and NES said it was garbage, so I didn't buy it. But now when I'm seeing it and playing it, there's good games, and now it's not that many. It's hard to find them.
They are.
So now it's the hunt's on.
I agree.
Do you want to add to that, Mr. Doug? Because you and I, neither of us grew up with this. We never. Everybody had Nintendo, so we all.
I'm old again. Thanks.
Sega. When you borrowed games, we didn't go out and rent games. At least I didn't. I always borrowed my friends. Like, I'd trade them. Like, here, you take this for a week. I'll take this for a week and play it. Nobody had a TurboGrafx 16. Was that the case with you?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I purposely never grew up with anybody that I knew that had one. Going to the video stores to rent video games and things like that, I never saw a shelf or even, anything TurboGrafx 16, Neo Geo, just a lot of these more rare, obscure home console systems. They just didn't get any love, at least in my part of the country. So I was never exposed to it. I missed out on it completely. My only exposure to these systems was seeing them in video game magazines like Electronic Gaming Monthly, like Glenn said. But I think a lot of why we're seeing the prices go up is grassroots campaigns from people like Glenn trying to drive the prices up, overhyping these things and trying to make them seem far superior than they really are.
I think another reason why they're expensive because there's not as many out there, right? Everyone had an NES, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not many people had a TurboGrafx 16. To your point. Now, did you guys know anyone who had a TurboGrafx Express, like a Turbo Express? That's even more hard.
I had one, and the girlfriend stole it. It's gone. It's in Montana
Right.
at this point. It's history.
I have a fake
But
one
that
right
thing
now.
was way ahead of its time. I mean, that was so cool back in the day. Still even cool today. But that's super cool technology back then.
So
Yes.
I hacked my Vita because obviously they stopped. I did like a soft mod where you can keep it and it keeps everything still stocked so you
Mhm.
can play games. I have Nintendo, Sega, and I have TurboGrafx on it, and it plays. So I was stoked with that. I was like, "This is awesome,"
Yeah.
because it's bigger, better screen than what the Express is. But $350, and some people are saying the caps aren't lasting in them, and they have to be recapped.
Mm.
Well, anything from that generation, you're gonna have to recap. It was just the '90s were notorious for bad caps. So if you have anything from that generation, you're gonna want to do it, because if you don't, those caps are
Yep.
gonna leak. They're gonna corrode. They're gonna eat the board, and then you will have nothing but a shell.
And it's not bad. $55. Some guys I've seen that they're recapping because
Yeah,
I-
that's good.
I seen a couple guys that were selling them for $175, but they need recapping. And every time I go to buy it, it sells really quick. So if you guys see
Right.
one, buy it. $55.
But another
to
thing
recap.
too to remember, people do these recappings. A lot of times, especially like the Turbo Express, they're surface mount caps, and a lot of times they do not cap it with surface mount caps. They use standard caps and they bend them over, and that puts a lot of strain on the motherboard. So if someone's going to be recapping it for you, make sure if it's a surface mount cap, they're putting surface mount caps where they're supposed to, not using standard through the hole caps on those spots. So of course, I'm the kind of guy who uses that. But if you're paying for it, you want to make sure you're getting it the right way, not the Glenn way.
That's a good point. I know the audio is a big issue too on the Expresses too. They tend to go out pretty common.
Now, do you have one? An Express?
Yeah, I have an Express and I have the PC Engine equivalent as well.
The GT.
Yeah, the GT. Yeah.
Glenn, he's just one up.
Yeah,
He
there
just
was-
one upped you.
Oh, he's one up me in a lot of areas. I'm not. I
Well,
can't
you got
compare
plenty of
myself
one
to
up behind you.
Gamester.
So
Yeah, I
you
got
got
those
plenty of
one
one ups
ups.
behind you.
But the one cool thing I'll say about with Sega, but they kind of did in Sega, it didn't necessarily do in NEC, who was manufacturing, was that Hudson Soft had NEC as a partner. And NEC was a very big electronics manufacturer. I mean, Sega was a game company, but NEC was a big computer manufacturer, all these things. So they did the Turbo Express, the Turbo GT. Then they had the PC Engine. I forgot what they called it. It was actually the PC Engine with a screen that came up on top of it. They had all these different type of designs. And they had, of course, the very first CD-ROM unit was the PC Engine and the Turbo Graphics, very first one.
Right.
And then they had the one that was built in, the Turbo Duo. So they had all these different technologies out there. And like Gamester said a moment ago, that Turbo Express was way ahead of its time because not only was it a portable unit, but it was a portable unit that took the standard game cartridges, which of course it started doing other things, but the screen that was used in there was light years ahead of what they had in the Nomad, the Atari Lynx, the Game Gear. There was no comparison. I think Gamester will agree with me that screen in that thing was far in advance of the rest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Show that box again if you don't mind, the TurboGrafx 16 box. I want to mention something. I don't know if you've noticed it before or not. Does that not look like Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell?
Yes, I thought that
Very
too.
much.
You know what?
Very
It's
much.
totally Zach.
It was a couple weeks ago. I think I seen the box for the first time because I was trying to get it because nobody has a box of it. And Glenn showed it, and right after the show, that was immediately what I did. I went look. I'm like, dang, that looks. Is that really him? Is that the guy that played Zach?
No, it's not.
Mark-
It's a doppelganger.
No.
It's a doppelganger, but it looks like him.
Wow.
Stunt double.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, we said about you having multiple consoles. For those that don't know who you are, John, why don't you tell a little bit about you and what you do and why you couldn't settle this argument? Because Doug and I thought we had you on our side, but apparently that's not the case.
It's like picking your favorite child, man. It's hard to pick your favorite because
There you go.
the Saturn is it's a little younger than the even though it's kind of old. But no, for me myself, I had a YouTube channel. It's Gamester81. I started about 10 years ago now, and I just basically got a camera when I got married my wife, and my parents gave me a camera and trying to do some research on consoles at the time, and there really wasn't much information about these consoles, and just started doing filming and doing some research and talking about these consoles, and that's how my channel kind of grew from there. So it's been great, man. It's been a great ride, and back 6-7 years ago, I became co-owner of CoolToy Games, which is we make homebrew games and new games for modern consoles as well. And then 2015, I started a gaming expo called Game On Expo out in Phoenix, Arizona, where I live. So I kind of wear multiple caps. I'm a big Star Wars guy as well. I collect Star Wars figures. My Star Wars collection is actually bigger than my gaming collection, believe it or not. So that's my first
and
love.
You have a YouTube channel. You also have a YouTube channel for that too, correct?
I do. Star Wars Nut 77, and on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and all that good stuff for that too. Yeah.
But at least he's a smart man. He's a Star Wars collector too. So at least
one of us.
But yeah, with CoolToy games, we started making ColecoVision. That's my first love. Honestly, is a ColecoVision. And talk about an underrated console. That's my number one underrated console of all time. Is the ColecoVision. So there's some really. I'm a big arcade guy. I know you guys are big based on what I'm seeing behind you. I know you guys are big arcade guys too. So if you haven't played the ColecoVision, definitely check it out. There's a lot of great ports for the ColecoVision. And so that's how I kind of got connected with those guys, because long story short, I made my own ColecoVision game called Gamester81, the video game, and got connected with JF and Toby and became co-owner of the company. And we've kind of, since I've joined, we've expanded to NES and to Sega Master System, to Atari 2600, to the Switch, to Steam, etc.
And I have this pulled up right here. I mean, you're still producing these games for these older consoles.
Correct. Yeah. So we are the only, to my knowledge, we're the only company I know, at least in the Americas. I'm not sure quite in Europe, but that own an actual ColecoVision cartridge mold. So we make them in house. We everything's original. So like this is our new City Hunter Caverns of Death for the Super Nintendo. Those are original molds. So we don't recycle any old carts or anything. The only situation where we actually did that was for the Sega Master System, because there's just no molds out there for that. So that was a pretty limited run that we did there.
I'm gonna see if I can pull that up there. Because you're low stock on that right now. So let's see if we can pull that up.
It crashed our site. I was shocked on the demand for this game. It crashed our site twice when we put them up. Our site got crashed. So
absolutely,
yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of demand for Sega Master System, and that's another system that Glenn, to your point, with Nintendo having dominating the market. You go to countries like Brazil and Europe, and there's a lot of great ports for the Sega Master System. I mean, I have like Street Fighter 2 for the Sega Master System, and I have, there's Golden Axe Warrior, which is a great adventure game, almost like a Zelda clone. So there's a lot of overlooked games for that, but unfortunately, in North America, the system was just non-existent because Nintendo had dominance in the market share.
So they're saying in the chat.
It's so weird. It's so weird because they did have such a monopoly that Atari started a class action lawsuit, which they would have won easily, except Atari did a couple things shady behind the scenes. Kind of made it go the other way. Surprising Atari did something shady back then, but they basically went to the patent office to get information on their NES lockout chip. Okay, so they basically said, we have a lawsuit going on with Nintendo. We need this stuff for our, to go with the lawsuit, which was not the case. And they got all the schematics on the lockout chip and reverse engineered it. And of course, they went and had the lawsuit. The lawsuit found that they did this. And then, of course, they ruled for Nintendo. So Atari ended up paying Nintendo when they could have won $100 million. They kind of paid the other way.
Yeah.
You sound bitter, Glenn.
Well, back in the day.
Because, John, go.
Go, Glenn. Yeah. Sorry, I was going to make a point where when Nintendo was first coming to North America, and their first test market was New York, right? Nintendo actually reached out to Atari to actually help, publish and produce the NES.
Correct.
And Atari shot them down. Atari shot them down. So I'm sure if they had a time machine, they're kicking themselves. It's like one of those situations with Nintendo and Sony with the PlayStation. It could have totally changed history as we know it for video games.
Correct. And Nintendo did at the time. People don't realize, especially kids today, that Nintendo in the late 80s to early 90s was nothing spectacular. And Nintendo knew that. Atari still was a huge world phenomenon in name. So they did approach Atari, and Atari, being Atari at the time, who they were basically trying to almost, I don't say rip them off, but they were trying to get everything and give them very little. And if anyone knows Nintendo don't play that game.
Right.
So it didn't end up working out, and Atari blew a huge deal. And a lot of people don't know that Sega was going to do the same thing in certain markets with the Genesis. And again,
Mm-hmm.
Atari was stupid; it didn't take the bite. And well, here's Atari today with the VCS that'll never be out, or if it is, who cares?
Or the hotels, they're coming out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I think that's cool though that independent developers and stuff are making games that for these old consoles that guys
Yeah.
are still buying and collecting. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we do something unique where we actually cross-port games. So when you program a game for the ColecoVision, it's totally different programming than for a Super Nintendo, right, or a Genesis. In many cases, you got to change the sprites, you got to change the colors, the graphics. So we, Caverns of Death, for example, Sydney Hunter and the Caverns of Death, it's already out for the Super Nintendo. It's pretty much getting really close for the NES. Genesis is we're working on. We have a port for. There's also Sydney Hunter called Sydney Hunter and the Sega Tribe, which is already out for the Commodore 64. We produce it for and that's for disc, floppy disk, and cartridge. Commodore 64. Sega Master System. We're working on an original Game Boy port of that game. So it's just really interesting to port these games to like all these different platforms. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but we do it for the love of gaming and just the love of these retro consoles.
So the question is, with the stock getting low and sold out, is that something you guys are going to replenish the stock of, or once it's gone, you're not bringing it back?
For most games, when we do like a ColecoVision game, we probably do maybe 100 copies of a game. I mean, they're really pretty limited. And in most cases, we don't do more. But I think in the case of the Sega Master System, given that there was so much demand, we just got to restock on some shells, get some new shells, some donor carts and stuff like that. But I think we do plan on making some more copies of that game.
Even like the Super Nintendo consoles ones too?
Super Nintendo, we made them, and we won't plan on making any more. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
we want to be sensitive too, because we still have copies available, but we want to be sensitive to the fact that people bought this game, and if we keep making more and more and more, the value gets less. So
Yeah.
we got to be sensitive to that too. So.
And another thing too is, they're making these old games, but these are actually very quality games. I have some ColecoVision games myself.
Oh, thank you.
So
Thank you.
the programming on them is very important. Some of these like ports are excellent. I mean, they have some arcade ports on there for like the ColecoVision that are just excellent. And it's actually, when you look at it, number one, it's hard to believe someone was able to squeeze that out of that 8-bit CPU and the
Right.
VDP and the ColecoVision. It's amazing. So the
Yeah.
programming is key, and that's why people do want to buy these games and play them, because the games are good.
Yeah. We earlier this year we released a new console. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. It's called the ColecoVision Phoenix, and it's an FPGA HD ColecoVision console. So we'll play ColecoVision games. It also has a chip in it, so it actually increases the memory and the graphics, so it actually looks more equivalent to an NES quality game. So
Wow.
really excited about that. We did the first batch. We already made them. We released them, shipped them out, and we're working on a second batch as we speak.
Wow. Doug?
And it's even more so. That also has the Super Game module built in, correct?
It does. It has a Super Game module built in. Yep. Yeah, it has this
Right.
an adapter for Super Nintendo controller in case you want to use a Super Nintendo controller, because ColecoVision controllers are very clunky and unreliable.
And Doug, I
Right.
think
So
and
is
it,
this-
and it looks like a small. It looks like a small ColecoVision as well. I mean, the Phoenix is actually a really, really nice console. If you like those older games, and the ColecoVision had an expansion module for the Atari 2600, so you have to purchase that. That's also built in, so you can
Right.
play 2600 games, ColecoVision
Right.
games. And it's just a really nice console. You guys did it. I was years working on that, right?
Yeah, it's been years. Yeah, it's open source too, so there'll be other built. So right now you mentioned the Atari 2600. There'll be other ones too. I'm sure in television. It has an SD card slot, so you can play ROMs on it too. So, but pretty limited. I mean, the first batch we only did like 750 of them, and probably only do
Oh,
about
God.
750 for the second batch as well, and that will be it. 1,500 total. So pretty limited.
and Glenn has half of your stock, because that's why everything. That's what I was gonna say to
That's how he
Doug.
does.
Yeah.
All these
But to
limited
get
runs.
those molds for those, it's not cheap, right? I mean, we
Right.
don't have much markup on the system at all. We just make it just because we have a passion for the system, ColecoVision, and we want to just expose it to more people.
Hey, Doug, can you read the comment in there from Shelton Sims in Facebook
Oh,
that he has
gotcha.
for John?
Yeah, it says, John, How long is it taking to process orders for digital content on the CollectorVision website right now? I purchased the CollectorVision Vault ROM pack early this morning, and it still says status equals processing. I know COVID-19 is slowing things down, but I received the download link almost immediately last time. Sydney Hunter on the Commodore.
Okay, good question. I don't have an answer for that, to be honest with you. Toby, who handles all that, would be the guy to ask. But I'll tell you what, if you can have him shoot me an email, it's just or send me a message on Facebook. My email is just john.lester@gamester81.com or at collectorvision.com. I'd be happy to look into that and get you an answer soon on that. But I imagine to be soon if you just got it this morning. So, okay.
Cool.
Good question.
Appreciate it.
Just make sure you guys are tagging Glenn, myself, or Doug, or even John, so he can go back and look at it later.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes we're watching 3 different chat rooms. Like right now, if somebody can find the link to the Japanese TurboGrafx Mini, I know that's kind of what we talked about before. If somebody in the Twitch chat wanted the link, so if you could post it in one of the other chats that I can grab it, throw it in Twitch, that would be fantastic. But make sure you highlight us so we can see it pop up. I know YouTube has super chats, and I know you guys are always good with that, but sometimes we don't always see it, and you don't have to do a super chat in order to tag us. We just want to make sure we see a particular comment that's coming through.
For sure.
So
John, oops, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Going on. I was saying,
going on. John, you're a man with many hats. You got, the convention, you got the game development side, and you got your personal collection. How do you divvy out your time for your passions and your work?
Yeah, and I have a full-time job on the side, and I have twin boys that are 6 that I watch and happily married. So, yeah, it's a good question. First and foremost, my priority is my family, right? And then goes to my day job, and then kind of, not to push things aside, but it would be my YouTube channel and CollectorVision games and everything else. So to answer your question, I am a night owl. So once my kids go down to sleep, that's where I focus and put my YouTube hat on, or I'll put my CollectorVision games hat on, or my Game on Expo hat on. Normally this time of year, I'd get really busy with planning Game on Expo, but given the COVID-19, it's a little challenging, to be honest with you. So we're trying to, the event's not till August. So I'm hopeful that by August things will clear up. So I'm just kind of, right now I'm putting a hold on that until I know more, to be honest with you. So that opens up more time for CollectorVision games, which I've been really focusing on, working with Sony on the PlayStation 4 port of Curse of the Mayan, as well as with Microsoft with that port for the Xbox One. Nice.
So what would be the hardest struggle from the planning and convention side of things, COVID-19 aside? What's something that the casual person that attends these type of things doesn't realize is going on in the back end?
It's a lot of work. I mean, we're going on year 6 for this, and I think marketing is probably the toughest thing. Although that's what I do for my day job. I'm a marketing director, so that helps a lot, just given my background. But letting people know about it obviously is going to be really important. I think offering an experience, right? So with Game On, it's a little bit different than a lot of other shows in the sense that it's not just geared for retro gamers, but also has an esports element to it. It has an anime element to it, live music. So there's something for everyone, right? So our goal at Game On Expo is to provide a family-friendly experience. And we don't just want a swap meet where you can just go and buy games. That's cool and fun, but we want something interactive where people can go to tournaments and do that, and or they can live music or go to an auction. So whether our core demographic, to be honest, is probably the casual gamer. I mean, we have things for the hardcore gamers, certainly, but we want to reach out to the soccer moms and those kids and the families, because let's face it, 85 to 90% of the gamers out there are probably casual gamers, and I think if you can get those people in there, that's going to be key.
Absolutely. Just trying to be all inclusive and trying to broaden your
all
scope
inclusive.
As much as
Yeah,
possible.
we don't want a situation people feel like unwelcome or uncomfortable. We want something to have fun. And on the same note, we want people who are hardcore gamers, because we don't want to forget about those guys, certainly, or gals, and we want them to have fun too.
Excellent.
With the TurboGrafx 16.
I knew he was going to.
TurboGrafx 16 with big neon sign up front, for sure.
I knew
we might change it to Game On Expo TurboGrafx 16 Expo. I'm actually thinking about changing.
Just rolls right off the tongue.
It just rolls so nicely off the tongue, for sure.
So we're getting a lot of great comments here in the chat room. Somebody actually said that my gentleman's name is My Family. That's the name of it. He said, "Wow, this is one of the most interesting guests I've seen on the show. I'm very impressed." So kudos
Oh,
to
thank
you there, John.
family. Thank you.
So,
Now, John, how long have you been doing the gaming expos for?
2015 was the first year, so we're going on year 16. So for the first
how-
2 years,
and how-
we were. Go ahead.
I was saying, and how has it expanded? How from when it started in 15? How much has it expanded out from there?
First year we had maybe like 1,500 people, 2,000 people, and this past year we had close to 10,000 people. So it's really
Wow,
it's
that's
really
a lot.
grown.
Wow.
And so trying to we get growing pains like anything else when you expand fast like that. So just trying to make sure that with that many people that we have enough space, that we have enough content. Shout out to my support team. I certainly don't do this myself, right? I mean, I need support. So we have an amazing crew that work tirelessly to make sure that we put a great event on for everyone.
that's insane. P-Dubs.
Let's hope this year makes it.
Yes, amen to that, man.
And that's
Amen to
in
that.
Arizona, right?
It's in Arizona, yeah. August, which I know everyone's like, oh, it's super hot, but we do have a thing called AC here, which is helpful. So it's not like it's an outdoor thing. So initially we did it because during the wintertime and springtime, those are really heavily booked things this time of year, in Phoenix. So things can get really expensive to book hotels and everything like that. So that's why we do it in August, to try to save some money. But so far it hasn't really affected people going to the show at all, which has been grateful. But my heart goes out to shows like Portland Retro Gaming Expo, which I know they canceled their show this year, Midwest Gaming Classic. There's so many good shows out there that have been put on hold because of this virus. And I realize in the grand scheme of things, there's more things to worry about, people's health, and I totally understand that. But my heart still goes out to these showrunners. It's hard.
It's very hard. Well,
it is, because a lot of time gets put into getting it ready, and then for it to flop out like that, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So again, I'm hopeful that maybe by the end of May we'll have some more clarity as far as what's going on with the certain situation, with COVID-19. Hopefully things will start. Let's put it this way: if things are still this way in August, then we got some bigger issues going on.
Really.
That's the least of our issues. So.
Yep, that's why all the games are in the bunker. They're all safe down here.
Right.
From the apocalypse.
Absolutely.
All here protected.
Absolutely. For sure.
So what arcades? I saw Sabo was in the chat room, and he said that he helped with the graphics on one of your arcade systems. If I'm understanding him correctly, what's
really?
what unless he was talking to somebody else, but I thought he said he helped with one of John's arcades. So unless there's another guy named John in the chat room that I kind of caught it.
Interesting.
Off.
I wonder what game he's referring to. Maybe it was I don't know. I'm curious what he's referring to.
Okay.
John's got a couple. I know John's got a big heart for Donkey Kong. I know he's got a Donkey Kong cabinet there.
Do you really?
I do have a Donkey Kong. I have a Donkey Kong cabinet, yeah. And I have D2K built into that as well. So I got like a Comet 2-in-1. Let's see. I have Star Wars is my favorite. The Atari Star Wars arcade. The Vector Graphics one, 1983. I have one of those. That's probably my favorite one for sure. A Neo Geo.
I remember the Neo Geo one. That was the bowling alley. It was the only place I ever saw a Neo Geo arcade was the bowling alley.
Yep.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Several years ago, my church, they had a couple arcades. Yeah. Several years ago, my church had a couple arcades, and they were actually going to give them away for bulk pickup for the city to pick up. And I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Whoa.
And so they end up giving me, I ended up giving like $20 for each, because that's, that's all I had on me at the time as far as cash goes. I picked up Simpsons arcade, 4-player Simpsons.
Nice.
And NBA Jam TE, 4-player, and they both look great. I paid like $40 for both of them combined. It was crazy.
What year was this, John? John, what year was this? Do you remember?
Probably 2-3 years ago.
Oh, Jesus
Oh,
Christ.
man.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Oh,
good
and-
for you.
Kudos to you.
Good for
Kudos
you.
to
That's all I can say.
A dump.
And Sabo's,
Yeah, they're just gonna dump them. I'm like, what are you guys doing? So I gave them enough money to basically transport to my house down the street, and we're good to go.
they delivered them to you too?
Yeah, they
Oh,
delivered.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
what a happy accident, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was. I felt like winning the lottery,
John,
man. It was awesome.
John, what are those guys doing with those big boxes, John? Oh, nothing, honey.
Well, that's the thing. I'm running out of room in my house for these, because they take up space, as you guys know. So
Yeah.
Well, you got 200 consoles that probably line the one wall like Glenn's there. Wait, I gotta ask.
Yeah.
Do you have them in plastic baggies too, like he does?
I don't, but I don't have them in plastic baggies. I do dust them weekly and make sure they're in good shape. So
I was watching.
I hate nothing.
My wife put on the show during the week, Adrian Monk, and immediately I thought of Glenn with his arcade stuff, putting things in the baggies and having to wrap them and put them on the shelf. And
Well, another thing you got to do when you put them in baggies, you got to suck the air out. You got to suck the air out. You got to make it vacuum. It's good
Vacuum.
You doing that with a
Nice.
straw or?
I am doing it with a straw. That is correct.
Wow.
so Sabo says Sydney Hunter was the one that he helped with the graphics on, apparently.
Oh, okay. Right on. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, for the arcade. Okay. Yeah, so that's currently that's a one-of-a-kind custom arcade. That's a place called Starfighters Arcades here in Mesa, Arizona, locally. I have it on display there. People can play it and enjoy it. So yeah, thank you for the help on that. That's awesome.
That's pretty cool. So you actually have it
Yeah.
set up as an arcade game, and you have it in a location that people can play it.
Yeah, let me see if I can send you a picture of what it looks like here, if I can look it up.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, we created a one-of-a-kind arcade. It's a PC, but it plays like an arcade. You got joysticks and buttons and everything.
So I know
So
we.
was it a fresh cabinet or was it a donor cabinet?
Fresh cabinet. Guy cut it. I mean, this guy is amazing. I have a DuckTales cabinet too. He did the same thing. He basically cut everything by scratch, by hand. It's pretty amazing. I'll send you guys some pictures.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So I was messing with John a little bit before the show and pre-show, and I was like, I had a bone to pick with him because I see everything on his site except for a Sega Genesis cartridge. So I wanted to kind of ask this on live only because of this. Is it difficult to remake these in the fact of the Sega's Genesis is kind of like a harder one to port, or is it just because it fits better on some of these other consoles? How does that work? Because a lot of these guys, they don't know, just like I don't know. Is it difficult?
It's a great question. I'm not a programmer, so I wouldn't, I'm not the right guy to ask. But, from my understanding, the same guy who did the Super Nintendo port is doing the Genesis port, right? But he's got a lot of other games he's working on for us at the same time. So I know that's kind of been put on the back burner, to be honest with you. But we are working on a Caverns of Death port of the game, and it should be out, if not this year, early next year.
I just wasn't sure if it was something like an iPhone versus Android, because a lot of times things get on the iPhone and iPads and everything, and not so much on Android because there's so many different versions of Android, Glenn, that you can't really develop for stuff like that. It makes it difficult.
To have options than not.
All right, here we go at games. Got to have options.
But yeah, so I know the Super Nintendo for us has been the most challenging platform to program for.
Wow.
You don't see many new homebrew games for a reason for that platform, because there's not many tools out there available. Like with the NES, you see a ton of homebrews, right? Where Super Nintendo was not as developed. And you think it'd be, it's more advanced, you think it'd be easier to program, but there's actually more limitations right now on the Super Nintendo than there is for the NES. Wow. So big sprites being one of them. Like we created a really cool lava boss for Caverns of Death, right? Like huge, took up like 2/3 of the screen, and it wasn't programmable for the Super Nintendo. So what we ended up doing was we ended up putting in the Caverns of Curse of the Mayan game for modern platforms. So we just recycled them.
That's good, at least.
Is there any plans maybe to do even a Nintendo 64 now that you guys kind of got the Super Nintendo down, or anything like that?
Nothing in the works for that, to be honest. Yeah, but good question. We don't have any plans for it right now.
Cool.
Has there been a
We actually
console
need a
port that
port.
you guys have
We need to
tried?
send a port for. Oh, sorry, Doug. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, has there been a console port that you guys tried and started with and kind of realized maybe you bit off more than you could chew, whether it be, programming, or it just didn't have enough support? Was there something that you guys had started and had to back away from because of limitations, whether it be physical or, even legal?
Super Nintendo was definitely one of them. We had a game called Tiny Night. No, I was about to say Shovel Knight, but it was Tiny Night. And that project's been on hold because what we wanted to do for that, just not able to do it with the programming limitations. But for the most part, we've gotten really lucky. We've got really skilled programmers, and when there's a will, there's a way. So we usually find a way around it. So
awesome.
All right, how do I send pictures?
Really that was much better than my question. That was an excellent question. Good stuff.
How do I send pictures in this chat? Is there a way to do that?
If you actually just put it in if you're in the YouTube chat, or you could send it to Glenn on Facebook, and if Glenn can send it to me. I don't know, because I don't know if you and I are friends. And I send a request.
I'm always the middleman.
Well, hey,
Okay,
I'm
Glenn, I'm gonna send to you right now.
trying.
Look,
People.
I got you on one side. I got Doug on the other side. I am the pinnacle of a middleman.
Do you know why? Do you know why we do that? It takes Doug and I to contain you sometimes, especially when we start talking about Star Wars. You get people mad at us.
Oh well, listen. We could talk about that later too. We got John here, man. So I'm all set to get on the Star Wars.
Oh, here we
bandwagon.
go.
All right, Glenn, I just sent you some pictures of the City Hunter arcade cabinet. I just sent, but these were designed by Sam. He lives in Colorado, Denver. I think he moved to SoCal. A good friend of mine, and he does these all from scratch. It's amazing what he does. You'll see the detail here. It's pretty amazing.
Actually, this is really good. I wish you guys could see it right now. This thing's actually pretty cool.
Well, if you send it to me, I can pull it up on the screen so everybody can see it.
I'm working on it.
Well, that's right. That's right. Wait, he
did a nice job here.
He has a PC.
I think I've seen it. Because was it made by Rewind by Design?
Yes, Rewind by Design.
Okay.
Sam. Yep.
Yeah, he's made a Zelda, a DuckTales.
Doug's seen it. You don't need to see it.
Yeah, it's great. You need to see it because this guy does amazing work. If you're not familiar,
DuckTales I ended up buying from him as well. I'll send you a picture. See if I can look up a picture of that too. I'll show you. The DuckTales turned out really well too. And that just plays using the NES console.
Wow. Yeah, he has created some amazing works. Like I said, Zelda, I think I've seen an Oregon Trail one from him. They all have that classic, or at least the ones I've seen all have that classic Nintendo arcade shape. And he just goes out of this world with the details and little intricacies, the things that he's able to kind of like bring across for these arcade custom builds.
Right. He does it all by scratch. Just amazing.
Looking at the chat room there. I know Glenn has a PC, so it takes a while to copy, to paste, to do all this other stuff instead of drag and drop like you can do on a Mac. So, just saying, Glenn. Look at Mr. Monk.
They're there, man. Why is it? Come on, you have a Mac. Why is it up already? I sent it to you.
Where did you send it? Last week? My goodness.
And you should definitely have it already.
What did you do? Send it snail mail?
All right, Glenn, I sent you another one too here.
All right, so here they come. They just kind of cruised in there. So this is the...
That's the City Hunter Curse of the Mayan, one-of-a-kind arcade. That skull lights up. It's hard to tell in the picture, but it lights up red.
That's awesome.
Oops, gotta go the other way. There we go. Another shot of
That's beautiful.
Now, John, when you're doing all these ports, to kind of piggyback on the awesome question Doug asked, and I feel bad about it, kind of, is there a machine you guys want to port to? I don't. It's true. Is there a system you did want to port to and just, you want to do it, and maybe you will do it eventually? Is there a classic system that, you want to do one on, but you just haven't gotten to it yet?
TurboGrafx 16 certainly is one.
Nice.
One of my good friends, Kyle, has been working on a City Hunter game that's kind of been exclusive. It's kind of a unique game, and he sent me a ROM probably a couple months ago of TurboGrafx 16 to check out, which is cool. So I think Neo Geo would be a platform we'd love to do like a game for.
Metal Slug.
Big cartridge.
Metal Slug.
And then I think N64 would be a cool one. I'm not familiar with too much how the homebrew scene is for N64. I know there's a lot of the games I've seen, the new ones coming out are usually games that have been like unreleased prototypes that have been like kind of finished, but I'm not aware of any like new N64 games to my knowledge.
Can you port one? I have an Atari Pong console.
Oh, here we
get a port for my Pong.
We get a City Hunter Pong. Yeah, we could probably change like the dot to like maybe an S and just call it Sydney, and then just we could have like the whips.
Nice.
I don't know. We could figure something out.
Only Glenn. You always got to bring that Pong into here.
Well, it's a great console. It's where it started, my friend. Right at the beginning.
Well, Glenn, I'll tell you what we can do. We can just do like an overlay, City Hunter overlay on your TV, and you can just play Pong, and we'll put like a City Hunter overlay on your TV, and then we'll call it a day.
Yeah, I could play my Magnavox Odyssey, the original Odyssey.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, perfect.
Nice.
Don't encourage the guy, will you? So
But
let
it's
me
true. John said he was going to make it. He did. I haven't.
let's do this real quick, and then we'll get back to this. So, guys, I know you all have been asking about the shirts and everything. We finally got something set up. We've got cups and everything else coming. I have a company working on that right now. But if you go over to the techbuzz.net/store, you can see the really cool non-punch in the face Mike Tyson picture of Glenn on the front of the shirt. As Glenn made me change that like 50 times till we found a shirt or a picture of him for the shirt that looked really good. I will tell you, coming up here in, I think this weekend, or it's next weekend, one of the weekends,
Those are cool.
they're going to be on sale. Thank you. You guys can get it the front and back. So if you want to get them, you can get whatever color you want and just change it here. I actually like that one. Doug, I think you got the green one, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. That one, yep. That's the one I went with.
Yeah.
Is that like Arch Rivals marquee kind of? It's hard to see on the.
No, so it says the Retro Buzz right on the marquee.
I know, but like design kind of looks like Arch Rivals a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Was that intent? No, it's cool. I like it.
The font definitely leads it. I see what you're saying there, Don.
Yeah,
There's no plagiarism here.
No, there's no plagiarism. I just noticed something though too, that Glenn is also in the middle on that one because he wanted to be front and center because his logo's so big. He wanted it like this was his requirements.
Yep,
he had to have it right there.
Oh yeah. Look,
Every
you signed the
every week.
contract. I didn't tell
Yeah,
you
I
to
was
sign the
about to say.
contract. You signed the contract. You got to abide by the contract.
Every week before the
Not my
show
fault you
starts,
didn't read it.
Glenn sends us his writer with this list of demands and everything we have to get in the show.
Special sparkling water. You
Yeah.
know how hard it is to get water, bottled water, sparkling at this time to get to Glenn?
Hey, again, you should have read the fine details. Just don't sign everything without reading it. Don't be like Cartman on, South Park. You got to read. Oh, Kyle, you got to read the entire
Terms and conditions.
At least
Yep.
he didn't say toilet
That's it, your
paper.
condition.
I mean, we would have been in
Yep.
trouble if he would have demanded that. But anyways, guys, you can go check that out. We've got some cool cups like this coming. They're not going to be camo, but they'll have this is my other brand. But they'll have these nice Yeti-like cups that'll have the Retro Buzz on it that you guys can get very inexpensive. The company that I work with, because they partner with me for some of the other outdoor stuff that I do, hunting and fishing, that makes some really good stuff. So that's coming. So you guys will be able to get that. I think they're like $16 or something. I mean, you guys know, if anybody's familiar with Yeti is like expensive, and this does the
Top of the
same
line
thing.
stuff.
It does the same thing because I have a Yeti cooler and I have one from this company, and they both hold ice the same amount of time, except one.
I think you guys
will
should
break away.
do like a branded toilet paper roll and make it like a sandpaper
See?
toilet paper. Like so that that way
There you
it's
go.
like sandpaper. I think it would really do well.
Yes, there's
Custom
black
grits.
shirts.
Well, I'm sure they'll put my face on it.
Well, that was the idea.
Leonard. There we go.
That's the idea.
I mean, if anyone's going on, we assume you want your logo on it front and center. So
Wait a second.
Yeah, there you
Of
go.
course.
We could put it on with Glenn without his hat and say, "Look, you can use this and put hair on Glenn every time you go to the bathroom."
Oh,
That's maybe too much.
cold, man.
that's too
Cold.
much.
You thought it was funny though.
Now I have a serious question. No more of this poop talk. No more-
Okay.
Get out of
All
the
right.
toilet.
All right.
I want to ask John. I've known for a while that ColecoVision is his favorite console. But what, I guess, aside from the ColecoVision, what's his most rare favorite console that he has?
3DO.
Now, is it the Panasonic, Gold Star, Sanyo? Which one?
Well, I have all three versions of the 3DO in my
Oh,
collection,
see,
but-
guys, I just
So, but I probably play the gold. I probably play Panasonic the most, the one that opens up the tray out, the first model.
right, the original.
Yeah. I was just playing that the other day actually. Just there's so many good games for it. I mean, there's a lot of not good games for it. Don't get me wrong, but there's some good games. Crash and Burn is a really fun racing game.
Gex.
Yeah, Gex, another good one. Yeah, Street Fighter is another good port. Street Fighter 2, that is. Yeah, there's some good ones.
And what's good about that one, guys, there's no copy protection on it. So
Right.
basically, to get a disc, you can play it on it. And as a matter of fact,
You can
I'm
burn it.
hoping we'll have Trip Hawkins on an episode this year. So I'm working out those. He's got a
Yeah.
contract. You think I got a contract with you two? Wait to see what I got to go through for Trip Hawkins.
I'm glad you're
Yeah.
handling that
Right.
one.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Well, question for you
I'm
guys.
Glenn, I'm in your corner. I like the TurboGrafx. It's a lot of fun too, man. It's a great console overlook. But so is the Saturn. So just want to throw it out there. I like the Saturn too.
What?
Now, what did you feel about the 32X?
That was a good.
The
That's a good
32X.
question.
For me, the games that stick out for me are like the Star Wars, arcade. I really like that one. But I could never, growing up, get mine to work like attach right, because you had those metal slats you had to put into, what I'm talking about? And it was just a pain in the ass.
Those prongs are the biggest.
Finger trap.
Right.
Get in.
Finger trap.
Yeah, right. So like when I could get
else.
mine to work, it was great. I enjoyed it, but it's just one of those situations, as you guys are aware, that Sega of America really wasn't communicating very well with Sega Japan, and it just they burned a lot of bridges. That's why the Saturn, I think, got over, or not the Saturn. Yeah, the Saturn got overlooked when it came out.
Right.
So.
Well, actually, I think Sega of America and Japan were talking just fine. Just America was like, we're not having this, and Japan's like, yes, you are, and you're like,
yeah,
okay, fine, we'll market it. Great, we'll do a great job, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, I do. I was playing the 32X the other day, and NBA Jam's actually a pretty good port for the 32X. If you guys ever played that, pretty good home port.
And you know what I found interesting on that, John? Because in that type of game, there's scaling. The 32X has a lot of games of scaling and zoom.
Right.
I didn't realize that there was zero hardware scaling and zoom. It's all done through software on that machine. I never knew that.
Interesting. Yeah. Because like virtual fighter, I mean, that all scales and zooms. That's interesting. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. The Sega CD added scaling and hardware zoom for the Genesis, but the 32X, if you look up the specs, there is no scaling or zoom in hardware. It's all software coded. So. I mean, there's a lot of it, like you said, and it works really well. It's really interesting that they didn't put it in there.
Yeah, someone mentioned in the chat, Need for Speed for the 3DO was really good too. You guys need to check that out.
That's the first one. That was the very first one. That was great.
Somebody also said,
of course, Road Rash.
Somebody also said the Sega CDs. Shelton in Facebook chat said that they also didn't have copy protection on their CDs as well.
Correct.
I think most CD platforms back in the day probably did not, right? I mean,
they weren't worried about it.
Because remember,
they
look at when these
it.
machines were released. When these machines were released, CDRs in the home were way too much money.
Right.
It was way expensive.
Right.
So there was no worry about it. And then all of a sudden, they came out. Oops. Copies.
Well, something that's really sad is there's a thing called CD rot, right? It's going to happen, and a lot of these CDs are getting rotted. It's getting to a point where you can't play these games anymore. So I think it is good. I don't want to endorse piracy by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it is good that people are preserving these games, whether it's through emulation or what have you, because
you're right.
10, 15, 20 years from now, we may not be able to play these CDs anymore, because there's going to be CD rot. So it's something to be aware of.
Well, that's...
And John, we were talking about it the other week, like what you have with the ColecoVision Phoenix. It's an FPGA. We just talked about this.
Yep.
As much as we love the original consoles, there is going to come a day, where they're not going to work. And emulation is software, but with your Phoenix, that's not emulation, that's recreation. You're recreating the hardware. And that's, I think, ultimately the future for our what we like enjoying. It's going to be that.
Right.
Well, even
another good one is Road Rash for the 3DO. Someone just mentioned that too. Mike, shout out to Mike. Yeah, it's another good one.
Love me some Road Rash.
But I do that even with my Sega Saturn games. I copy them and I use the burn copy to play rather than destroying that. But I know what you're saying, the CD rot, right? But what about the TurboGrafx? Since you were bringing that up, how you can't back those things up?
Well, you can, but I will say, like right here, this is my copy from Japan of Ease 4, and they did something interesting on here. They have one audio track, and then they have a data track, and then more audio tracks. They broke them up in such a way that it's very difficult to copy. But with that being said, it is not impossible.
Well, what about the card? What about the cards, Glenn? The actual the cue cards that
you can 3D print them. People
really?
3D printed them.
You could 3D.
Wow.
Oh yes.
Yep. That's impressive.
And then you go over here. Here is my burned copy, which does work. There is no copy protection on it per se, but this is the original game was only in Japanese text and Japanese speech. So there was no way to play this game in the States until someone did a patch. So it was not easy. You had to go through a lot, but I was able to burn a copy that has English text, and this is a fantastic game. And you got to play this game as well. But you're right. People can 3D print now shells, even for the cue cards.
Where do you get the chips then to go inside of it? Like I mean, it's not just.
Well, that'll be John and ColecoVision making FPGA cartridges. That'll be
There
coming in
you go.
2026.
There you go,
Do you guys
John.
want to invest?
Comes full
Now sign
circle.
up. We'll start taking investors. Glenn, I was playing. You'd appreciate this. I was playing on the TurboGrafx 16 CD, Rondo of Blood, the Castlevania.
Oh yes,
love-
great game, and that's on the mini.
Yeah. But I just love the intro, the German with. I mean, it's so cool. That great Castlevania game, really good game.
In fact, it's still considered the definitive version. Of course, they've had other versions that have surpassed it.
Sure.
But they still say that the NES, the SNES, the Sega Genesis, the TurboGrafx 16 was the definitive, version of Castlevania. Of course, it was a CD, so it had some advantages. But it's a fantastic game, and thankfully, it is on the mini, so you guys can play it.
Hooray!
Have you guys messed around with any of the MSU? What people are doing with the Super Nintendo games? You guys know what I'm talking about?
Actually, I don't.
Yeah. So people have taken these games and enhanced the audio quality of these games. So they'll take a ROM of the game and they'll increase the audio. So, like, I'll send you some examples of some video footage, but there's like, let me see if I can send you a YouTube channel link. But you can play like Zelda for the Link of the Past, and there's whole like full video cartoon with audio CD quality. It's like mind blowing what people are doing with these games. It's really cool.
I want that.
Um,
Zelda's my jam, so that
yeah, no,
the
it's
fact that I didn't
incredible.
know that exists.
It's like
that
it
sounds
totally
amazing.
changes the way you look at these games, and it's cool. You can play these games on if you have like a flash card, you can play them on your hardware. Hold on, and it plays through the hardware, which is cool.
Even better.
Yeah,
I'm glad I went and bought the most expensive, rarest systems first, because now I can go back and just pick up Nintendo 64, Super
You
Nintendo.
say that, but like you haven't really started getting in those really obscure consoles yet. So it's like,
all right.
Well,
Where
I'm
do you wanna
I'm
go?
still looking for the Neo Geo.
John,
I'm still looking for
John,
Neo.
Steven is such a noob. He doesn't even know. He speaks, does not know.
All right, Glenn, I'm going to send you another link here through Facebook
Great.
Wait,
Messenger. Hold
so
on.
I had some of these consoles growing up, but like the rest of everybody else, we sold them because we didn't know anything.
Yeah, didn't know any better.
Yeah, but
I sold my consoles to upgrade to the next console because I was poor and that was the only way I was going to get the new
There you
console.
go.
So
Yep. Now I hold on to everything.
absolutely.
We'll pull this up,
All
and
right,
then
just send it to you, Glenn.
we're gonna have to wrap the actual show, but then we'll go into post show here. So
Cool.
it's
You should have it,
so
Steve.
once we get it,
It's over there.
I'm gonna pull it up here. Glenn sent it to me here.
So, John, let me ask you something else. Do you have an original working NTEX Adventure Vision? Because that's another Holy Grail console. Do you have one of those in your collection?
I do not. I have, my buddy sent me one. I did a video on it. I don't have that. That was an attachment, correct? It was like an attachment to.
No,
was the
there was that
system
standalone. It was NTEX with 19. God, was it 1983?
Oh no, I don't have
was
that.
a
No, yeah, I know what you're talking about. No, I don't have that. I do not have that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't have that. So this is normal. Turn the audio. Can you do the audio?
We can't pump the audio through.
Okay. Okay.
Not on this.
But you guys can.
But we can
at
post
least
the link.
visually see.
We can share the link. We can share the link out.
Every time we post audio,
So-
that's why I never wired it up. We get nailed on YouTube.
You can
Yeah.
fast forward it a little bit,
Okay.
maybe.
About there.
Or maybe. Oh no, maybe you did too much.
Oh, too much.
Go back. You gotta do the intro. It's not sent to the right link.
Like that.
Go to like. Okay, go to like the 4-minute mark, like the 3-minute mark.
Oh, 3-minute mark. All right.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the 3-minute, 4-minute mark. Come on, man.
I'm working on it. Calm down.
And keep in mind the audio is incredible too. But yeah, this is what.
So are they
Look at
just
this.
recoding the audio, or are they enhancing the?
No, this
chip
is all
somehow?
new voiceovers, the voice actors, and everything.
Wow.
Look at this.
This would have blown people's minds if it would have been on the original cart.
And this is playing on the Super Nintendo hardware, which is incredible too.
Even more impressive.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty mind blowing. So it's really cool what people are doing.
Yeah. That's dedication for sure.
Right.
Interesting. It's like a little cartoon.
Full of cartoon. It's got anime, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not as bad as it's not as bad for the CDI, right? It's not as bad as the CDI versions. The voice acting is much better than the CDI versions. Trust me.
Yeah.
Actually, the CDI versions are so bad, you got to see it because it is so
it's
bad.
so bad
you
it's good.
You're zoned in on it. You can't get away from it.
Yeah.
Well, John, we have to wrap up this portion of the show, the actual podcast / video cast of the show. So, any parting words for everybody? And we really appreciate you jumping on.
It's been amazing being on the show, guys. I appreciate being the guest, and Glenn, I know it took a while to get connected, so I appreciate you guys' patience in that regard. But it's been fun. I hope you guys stay safe, and thanks again for having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely. So make sure you guys go check him out, Gamester81, at on YouTube, his website, and check out the games. He's got some great games there. And also, Doug, we tried today. We really did. But
we did. Support your local Sega Genesis enthusiasts. That's all I can say. There's a lot of people trying to say negative things about it. Smear campaign, 20, 30 years too late. But cooler heads will prevail. Smarter people will know the truth. The truth is out there and all that stuff. But no, thanks for John coming on, and I really hope this COVID-19 stuff kind of clears out for everybody's sake, but mainly for yours, because I know there's a lot of people really looking forward to the game on Expo. So I really hope that
thanks, guys. Thank you.
Move forward.
Make sure you guys
get you out the game on. It'd be fun to have you guys out too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Make sure you check him out, youtube.com/COOLTOY. And this guy, I hate to even cut over to him, but I'm going to do it. He's over here caressing his TurboGrafx 16 and CD. Glenn, I hope somebody calls up in post-show.
I like you.
Hey, I like it too, but Mr. Glenn Planamento, check him out, youtube.com/Glenn's Retro Show. Any update real quick before we have to wrap this on your controller situation, obviously with the COVID? Any word that it's being delayed, deployed anytime soon? I know China's pretty much back to full force.
Yeah, well, first I want to thank John, obviously, for coming on. John, don't worry about it. I was going with him a long time back and forth. He's very busy. I'm just very thankful he spent some time with us today. John, thank you. And as far as the yoke controller, right now everything's still on schedule. We're still shooting for July. I just did an update a couple days ago that we've got the new casing design, which is much more accurate to the original Star Wars controller. We've also got the mouse mode working, so you can do an analog joystick mode or a mouse mode that is working very well. And everything so far is going pretty good. Can't complain, other than the people are complaining about the COVID, and I can't blame them on that one either. I will say again, two things real quick. I got to say two things real quick. One, people, don't think because you feel okay, you can just do whatever you want. Please, if you can stay home, stay home. I work for a hospital system, and I'm telling you right now, it's been crazy. We've got to try and keep it down as best we can. If you can stay home. Go buy some ColecoVision games, do a digital download, play on your Switch, whatever you want to do, but please stay home. That's number one. Number two, I'm hoping John, before he leaves, will agree with me that episodes 4, 5, and 6 were great. 1, 2, and 3 were okay, but then 7, 8, and 9 were kind of like sticking at
No. Don't say nothing, John, until we get to post-show, because that's... Yeah. Listen, guys.
That's a whole other thing.
Listen, we're going to hold that. We're going to make sure John doesn't say anything until post-show, because, look, you want to hear the response. You got to be here for the show and be there for post-show. We're going to have a bunch of people call in. Glenn, anything else that you have before?
Just honestly, all joking aside, please be safe. Please be conscious. Keep 6 feet away from people if you can. If you have a mask, use it. If you do have to go out, just because someone looks fine, they still could be a carrier and infect someone else that you know and love. And this stuff is dangerous. People may say it's like the flu. It is not. It is much worse than the flu. Please be careful.
Yes.
Sure.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we'll see you next week for more of the Retro Buzz. You can check everything out on the web. Go subscribe to the podcast everywhere your favorite podcast is at, both audio and video. And we'll see you next week.